And welcome to the 41 heavens or minutes of heaven, not purgatory. We call the D1
This
Baseball
show's off the
Podcast.
rails. We're 8 seconds in. We're off the rails.
Bruce just
Yes,
tripped over the starting block.
we love it. Oh, it's the GIF where the guy runs into every hurdle in the hurdles race. Yes, thank you. I believe my name is Michael Patrick Rooney III, but I do know this for certain. Tonight's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. Want to also say thanks to our good friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. It's easy to use and affordable technology. The platform is accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level of our sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. Goodness gracious, I am joined by the great Zebby Barrels, Aaron J. Fitt, on a wonderful Thursday evening, and Joseph J. Healy. Gentlemen, we're going to have a little bit of a turbo pod tonight, but that doesn't mean that Coach Rooney, like as Coach Murphy used to say, Fitzy, you can just be as quick as you are quick. You can't be any faster than that. And I think I got sped up. What are you going to do?
You know who else got sped up, I guess, is Coach Murphy. Isn't he serving a suspension as we speak at the moment?
Two games.
Yeah,
It was glorious. It was,
soon.
what I liked, what I really respected, I did watch the video. At the end of it, Murph, obviously him and the umpire was let the shaft out too. Like it was explosive. Yeah. But Murph, after it was done, just turned his back and walked to the dugout. I thought that was a new move. That I didn't feel like that was in the toolkit 20 years ago, quite honestly.
Listen, black hat pat, no longer a thing, where we moved on to it's just like a standard blue hat pat, and we're good with that.
It's charcoal gray hat pat. It's really what it feels like. So awesome. Joe, that shirt I know some people are going to listen on a podcast. That shirt's got a little giddy up to it. Could that make it to Omaha?
Thank you. Oh, it's definitely an Omaha shirt. It's right now it's officially in a trial run, if you will. This is a dry run. I don't want to telegraph anything, but yeah, I feel good about this being an Omaha shirt. Let me put it that way.
If you had to do a questionnaire, a pre-Omaha questionnaire, like we ask our coaches to do, where in the projected rotation is this like a day 3 shirt, a day 5?
It's definitely in the middle of that. Better. It's also decent breathability, but it's not as breathable as I would like. So this is definitely like a middle of those 2 game days type of shirt. So yeah, day 3, day 5, something like that. I'm not going to come out of the gate with it, but it's it's like a mid rotation starter. It's like Vicente Padilla in his prime.
Oh, that's a good God. Joe's the king of the just off the cuff elite pull. Man, oh man, that's fantastic. Vicente Padilla.
I was going to say it's the Will McIntyre. You could easily squeeze that into the weekend. Yeah. It could make quality pitches.
That could stand in for Joe's Party Boy shirt that he wore at the SEC tournament show last year. This could be the new Party Boy. It's like Will McIntyre could do anything.
It could be, but I've got a couple I'm pulling out for Omaha that are pretty strong. I don't want to oversell it, but I've made some upgrades.
Yes. Joe, and Fitzy, you need to be here for this. No offense to Kendall J. Rogers, but you and no offense to Michael Patrick Rooney, but you two are you're the Friday and Saturday vocabulary guys on our staff.
Yeah.
This podcast is basically known as the perfectly cromulent college baseball podcast. And so I have no idea where I was about to go with that. It was something about vocab. Where was I going with that, Joe?
You're on fire tonight.
Yeah, my brain. I've been in training all week. I was training someone, but maybe I should have been in training. The brain is completely fried. Something will come to me at some point. So I don't know what it will be.
You want to talk some baseball? Is that what we should do here?
Let's do it. Let's preview the game. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a little game. The theme is Turbo Pod. I've got my stopwatch for those of you watching wherever you're watching. And so what we're going to do is I've picked about 20 series that stand out, and we're going to go right down the line in
order. We're going to spend 15 to 20 minutes on each of them.
We are not. The stopwatch will not allow that. I will throw the stopwatch at you virtually if we were to do that. And Joe, you're going to hit lead off since you're over there in position 1. So what you can do is you can either give us your 60-second version of that series, or you can we're talking basketball, two-way point guards. You can Steve Nash it. You could shoot and score, or you could send that series to me or Fitzy, and vice versa, of course. And then, preferably with a question like, hey, what do you, give me something specific to chew on there. So let me pull up my series here. The first series I had was Georgia Tech at Clemson. So Joe, you can shoot or pass.
I'm actually going to send it to Aaron over there because I do have a specific question that I wish I could answer for myself about this. If I had enough information, this is what I would probably hit on. If Georgia Tech is feeling it this weekend, we know they can hit. That's kind of their MO. The pitching is a little more suspect. That leads to sometimes some ugly games, kind of some of those, what's the like crab in a bucket games where they're just pulling each other back down and it just kind of gets all ugly. I'm really trying to land the plane here. Is Clemson ready? Is Clemson ready for that kind of fight? Like, is that their kind of party? Can they win games like that? Okay, that's for my question.
No. I mean, listen, if you watched much Clemson baseball this year, I think that answer is pretty obvious. Yes, this is a crab in a bucket team for sure. Like that is Clemson, and it's I mean, again, I don't know how many times I talk about the Florida State series that I swooped in there for, and it's like they're down 8-1 in the 9th inning and they win the game 9-8, and then the next day they're down 11-3 in the 7th inning and they win the game 14-11. I mean, it's just like, and it's happened over and over, this kind of stuff. They've had these crazy like crab in a bucket games. Like didn't they have one with Louisville, like something like that? I mean, it feels like, yeah, Clemson, they're going to score runs and they're going to fight you. They're going to like pinch you with their stupid little crab claws. They're going to pull you back down in the bucket. For sure. They like to play dirty. Like this is not a team, the way I see Clemson, it's not a team that's going to like win a lot of beautiful games. It's not going to be like 6-1, that often, in my opinion. I mean, they've got some pitching and, it seems like I've talked about Aiden Knock a lot as a freshman that he's kind of like emerged as this like chic pick for ACC pitcher of the year. I mean, like you want to talk about Burns and Arnold. Sure. You can talk about those guys. They're awesome. They're elite. But Aiden Knock leads the ACC in ERA in conference games, sub 2. It's really good. He's as a true freshman. He's doing this.
Still on Sundays, Fitzy, or did they slide him up?
I think they slid him up, but
no, he's not Friday though, right? Like, or maybe I guess everything is fluid at this point.
Yeah, at this point, it's my mind is starting to mush together. But I know that they've been starting Darden and they've been starting Knock and they've got Gordon at the back end, which I think makes sense. But anyway, the point is like they're not going to win a lot of really low scoring games, and I just think that ultimately like this is probably going to be a high scoring series. But then again, Georgia Tech's actually pitched well lately. Like it feels like all of a sudden, this is not your father's Georgia Tech team. I mean, they've got 3 guys in their rotation all of a sudden here who, pitched very well. I mean, like last weekend, I think I don't know if they got 3 quality starts, but I mean, between Aiden Finateri, who's been there a while and has got a lot of innings under his belt, that is just kind of your classic bulldog, type joker. You got Cam Jones who went the distance, and again, I think that middle game against Miami gave him a really important 9 innings of work, 4 runs, and then the really exciting freshman Tate McKee. Like that's it. Like that, if you can get those 3 guys to get you into those middle innings more often, they get a chance to be pretty darn good because we know they're going to hit. They always do. And so anyway, I don't know where I come down in this series. I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. Georgia Tech's won 4 series in a row now. They're playing well, guys. This is very intriguing.
Yeah,
I guess the better question should have been: should you prepare to eat 1 meal or 2 meals at the ballpark, given how long those games could be?
Yeah. I mean, a meal and a half, I would say is the right answer.
Easy. Yeah, I would say 2. Like,
meal and a snack. Yeah.
Miss on the pro side there. Gentlemen, so we did not do good with pace there, but that was a great conversation because no, you're good because Georgia Tech is a team that we need to be more studious of because you're right, Fitzy, they're coming. I've got Arkansas, Kentucky. I will pump fake to Joe on the wing and I will launch from the logo, Caitlin Clark style. I'm just going to tell you about this series. It's extremely interesting because Arkansas's offense remains intriguing. The path I think for Arkansas's offense to be good enough for them to win the national title is that Kendall Diggs has got to just like get out of it, like snap out of it, like whatever draftitis he's been suffering from. He's a way better hitter. Like he's just like an afterthought right now. He should be one of the best pure hitters in the league. And then Peyton Stovall has got to be the star that we think is in there. If those two guys are, fully actualized, I think that offense has a chance. And then Kentucky, like it's the opposite question. The pitching feels vulnerable now that we've lost the series to the Tennessee, and then we've lost the series at South Carolina. I still love this position player group at Tennessee, but their pitching is concerning me. So this is a really big series for Kentucky, especially given at home. I picked Arkansas, but I will have eyes on this one. This is a good one. Fitzy, go ahead.
So I'm supposed to go to the next series. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Vandy, Georgia. Yes, sir.
Vandy, Georgia. Okay. I'm going to be there on Friday night. I'm pretty excited about this. I have not seen either one of these teams live yet this year. And I'm just fired up to get a look at this Georgia offense that I keep hearing so much about. Is that a Bryce Cunningham start, Joe? Do I have that right? Friday night?
Yes.
Yeah, and I keep hearing more and more good things about him. And it's funny because like I remember seeing him a couple years ago, and it was just like this electric arm, but it was just kind of a thrower. It was not very polished, and it sounds like he's really, really coming along and become a guy that they can count on. And so I guess that's just what I'm excited about here is Bryce Cunningham versus the Oklahoma offense that scores all these runs. Fun matchup. That's what I got. Runes is muted.
I was going to say, Joe, your description of Bryce Cunningham in our chat was so spot on. Like, it's a fastball that probably plays down off the number, but the number's pretty intriguing, and it's more changeup than breaking ball. And that makes him a kind of a confusing guy to get your arms around.
Is it a split? Do I have that right, Joe? Or is it a changeup?
I'm sorry. What is what? I'm sorry.
Cunningham.
It's Cunningham, splitter or a changeup guy? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. No. I thought the first year. Anyway, I got caught up in the air there.
Love it, Joe. You have OU at Texas Tech.
I do. My thought with this one is the Big 12 has been such a tough conference to read. And I listened to the Nerdcast this week, and if you haven't, you should. And Aaron, Mark, and Kendall just kind of collectively had to end up shrugging their shoulders at a lot of the Big 12, both in the hosting conversation and in the at-large conversation. And this is one where if you're Oklahoma and you want to be serious about we're the best team in this conference, we're going to host, it would behoove them to get this series. It's on the road against Texas Tech. Yes, Lubbock is a hard place to play. However, like if you're the best team in the Big 12 against a Texas Tech team that's good, I think we'd agree on good, but I don't know if we'd go beyond that. This is the kind of series you win. And if they win it, they're probably going to be in a lot better shape. As they sit right now, RPI is 26. That's probably outside looking in unless you really win the Big 12 to host. On the flip side, Texas Tech, my concern there is last weekend against Kansas, and it was on the road, and Kansas is pretty decent. But the concern was they would jump out to leads, and all of those leads just evaporated. Like they couldn't add on, but then B, it was just like a sieve pitching-wise where it almost felt like Kansas had no urgency because they felt like they didn't need it. Like it was just every game was Tech's up 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, and here comes Kansas, and the game's over. Kansas wins. It felt very flat. It felt like they didn't really have any answers on the mound. Getting back home should help, but this Oklahoma team's good enough to where it may not be a different result.
Love it, Joe. So I have Alabama at Hail State. I'm gonna pass that to you. Here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm very leery of Alabama. They have 5 wins against Tennessee, A&M, and Arkansas. Like, no one can say that. Those are 5 enormous wins. But, like, an Alabama team where Ben Hess is not pitching well and Justin LeBron is, like, first-team All-SEC, like, I'm really confused by that. And I just worry about sustainability. What say you on that?
I understand it. But what I guess I would tell you is that I think they've already hit their nadir and are on their way back up. I think they're playing better now than they have in a while, because LeBron did hit a little bit of a skid kind of in the early to mid portion of SEC play. And then he got back on track and started swinging it well again. some of the guys who haven't swung it well for Alabama during the middle portion of the year are starting to get hot. Cade Snell didn't hit much early in the year. Now he's really hot. So the offense, I think, is better. And on the pitcher's mound, they have the injuries to Quick and Hagan Banks. And at this point, Hess just kind of, it is what it is. Like, I don't think we're going to see it would be a great story if it did, but at this point we have enough evidence to suggest that he's probably just not going to be the guy we thought he was going to be. But the flip side of that is that Greg Ferrone has been, I'll just raise my own hand and say, better than I thought he'd be in that role. He's been really, really steady. Yeah. And Zane Adams, the freshman, is not pitching like a freshman. Like, he's a guy who wasn't in the rotation till week 5, 6, 7, something like that. And dude's been really good. And so I think they went through their period of time where it was like, red alert, this team might be in trouble. Their conference record is still only 9-12, but the quality, when I watch them, they're playing a lot better than they were 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think they fought through the part of the year where we have to worry as much about them. We'll see how many wins they end up with, but like the quality of play is better than it was.
Love it. Fitzy, Cal Poly at Irvine. Yeah. What say you?
I'm going to take the shot here, Runes, because
Shoot it.
We were talking about being hot offensively, and you know who's really hot offensively is Los Anteaters. They scored 42 runs, if my napkin math is right here. 42 runs in 3 games at Riverside. And listen, Riverside, not renowned for its pitching, okay? But the Eaters are hot, and they follow that up with a road series win at San Diego. They've won, 8 straight games now, I believe. It just feels like they're lying in the weeds now. And all of a sudden, when we did our Nerdcast on Tuesday afternoon before they played at USD, they were like 26 in the RPI. And then by the time that night was over, they were like into the teens. And it's like, hey, here they are, guys. Like, it's all there. They're 33-8. Their RPI is inside the top 20, 14-4. They put up numbers. Miles Smith's going nuts at the top of the lineup. Woody Hadeen and Caden Kendall. I mean, Anthony Martinez, all these name brand guys that they have in their lineup, they're all locked in at the moment. And, I would expect them to finish really strong. And Cal Poly, I know that they're kind of that team that's been a home wrecker over the years. Is that the right term, Runes? I don't know.
Home wrecker. Sure.
They're just a troublemaker. They just kind of
troublemaker. That's what we want.
They start off slow and like ruin everybody's RPI because they lose a bunch of non-conference games, but then they just go on a tear in conference play. This year they got on that tear a little earlier, and they're 26-16 overall now. Like, they're not flirting with 500. It feels like they're always every year. It's like battling to get over 500 overall, but they have a great conference record. This year they actually have a pretty good overall record, and they're 15-6 in the league. Like, I think they're pretty good. But I just feel like Irvine's a little bit of a steamroller right now, and they're at home this weekend, and I like their chances.
They're playing at USC's field. Sorry.
Well played,
Joe. So you're going to take Louisiana at Troy, and I just want to say, Keith Moreland. I'm going to get to work with him at the Big 12 tournament. He pronounces the state Louisiana better than any human on earth. Keith Moreland's nickname is Zonk. He's as good of a human as you're ever going to meet. Incredible storyteller. And I believe he says Louisiana. It like the lose is. Can you do this, Joe? You're an East Texan, right? How do you do it?
Yeah, Louisiana. Yeah,
Louisiana. There you go. It's so gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So
that's how I grew. That's how I grew up hearing it. Like, that's just how it's. Yeah,
Louisiana.
Really,
yeah, Louisiana.
It's so great. So you can shoot or pass, Joseph.
I'm going to take a shot, much like you did. I'm going to pull up like at Arkansas's facility, pull up from the snout, as they would say, because you got the hog in on half court. And so if you pull up from the snout, you're pulling up from extra deep Caitlin Clark territory, as you said, Runes, as you put it so well. I actually watched a decent bit of the Cajun series last weekend against USM because I hadn't seen a lot of or USM for that matter. So I just kind of did a little check in on them. And the thing that came across to me was Kyle DeBarge is really good. And when he needs to he's just one of those guys that when they ask him to put the team on his back, he just kind of metaphorically, of course, is just like, yeah, okay. And, it's 3-run home run. It's 2-run double in the 8th inning to get them back in games where they just didn't have a pulse. Now, that being said, like, you can't really live like that against good teams. And Troy right now is playing really well. My bigger picture thing here, though, is I'm fascinated by what Louisiana is, especially if it drops some of these games to Troy. and it's, just maybe a game up at the end of this weekend or what have you, and their postseason hopes, because I know this is more of a nerdcast discussion, but their RPI is like above 50. And, if they lose this series, it'll probably stay about the same, maybe drop a little, but that's not typically Sunbelt at large team type of range. Now they could win the tournament. They have the pitching to do that. Their pitching is excellent, but it does make me a little nervous. And it kind of is a bummer, because like we can all look at this team with our eyeballs and say, there's no way this team shouldn't be a regional team. Like there's just no way. Like this is a regional team. But the reality of the situation is that there's a very real scenario where they just don't do enough RPI wise to get there in the end. And that'd be a real shame.
Agreed.
Certainly would. I wrote about that. This is where having multiple metrics can really, give you different shades of teams. But you're right. That's a heck of a series. Troy is smoking hot. Oregon at Utah. Let me take a shot here. I am the West Coast correspondent. I think my Pac-12 prognostication did not go well. I had Arizona 9th. I had Utah probably 10th or 11th. One of those teams could win the league. And so that would be, in fairness, the coaches poll looked a lot like mine did too. But I think we keep waiting for Utah to turn into a pumpkin. They keep not doing it. They're very solid. They throw strikes. It's not a ton of missing of bats on the mound, but they are competent and they play good defense. Core Jackson missed some time last weekend, the transfer shortstop from Nebraska. They really need him in there. He provides athleticism that they don't have. And then, Utah, you keep waiting for them to mess up and they keep not doing it. Oregon, I like this team, but I wonder if they've been revealed a little bit, where it's a lot of new position players. I like the depth on the mound, but there's like not any one guy where you're like, okay, give him the ball and you're good to go. So I don't know, like Oregon won 5 straight Pac-12 series, but didn't sweep any of them. Now they've lost 2 Pac-12 series. This feels like a very important series for both teams. Very similar to your Sun Belt point, Joe. Both of these teams have RPIs in the 50s. And so where they sit today in really good standing or position in their standings is nice. But this could very easily get very uncomfortable over the next 2 weeks. Fitzy, Vols and Gators, who, by the way, have not kicked off yet because of weather. Clean it up, Chris Burke.
Yeah, come on, Burke. You do your job, Burke.
It's May in Gainesville. You don't say. They're in a weather delay.
Yeah, didn't see that coming. Interesting series. Obviously, Florida's in every game really matters mode. They're 2 games over 500 overall. They've got 10 games left in the regular season, 9 games. I guess 9 now. Got to go 5-4. I think they got to go 5-4 if my math is right.
It's 10. They have a midweeker against South Florida. It's 9 conference games.
You're right.
The one against South Florida.
Okay. They got to go 5-5, as I was saying. They got to go 5-5, Joe.
Just like you were saying.
To finish the regular season above 500. And so, they can win this series. They can win any of these. They're good enough to win any series. I was actually very encouraged by the way they pitched against Arkansas. And I know Arkansas has a maligned offense. I get it. Especially in conference play, especially, when they're not at home, but they were at home this past weekend. Here's what I'm going to say. Christian Ford Coppola.
I love where your head's at.
I think he's coming on. The reports are good. The stuff sounds intriguing. He gave him 3 innings of quality work. I think you're going to continue to lengthen him out. That's obviously a huge key here. Total X factor guy. He's been off the map for a couple of years, after being a huge recruit. I drank all the Kool-Aid on Coppola, however you say it, that freshman fall year, and it's taken a while, but I think that Kool-Aid is going to maybe deliver here, and we'll see. But him and Neely pitched well, and you got Cags. They got enough. I think the roles are okay right now. Tennessee's a better team, obviously, is not close. But the SEC teams tend to win at home, no matter where you go, it seems like, and no matter what week. Florida's desperate, and it feels like they're going to find a way here.
Love it.
I refer to Pierce, don't call me Sophia Coppola. That's the quotes there. Don't call me.
That works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joe,
Is it my turn?
Stayed at the Knowles. Respect the Knowles, Joe.
I obviously don't respect the Knowles because I'm going to pass this off to Aaron. This can be a very broad question, Aaron, but I mean, I should be embarrassed because I live in the triangle here. Tell me about NC State. I feel like they're a little bit of a blind spot for me. We've spent a lot of time on FSU, spent a lot of time on Duke. We spent a lot of time on Wake. NC State does feel a little bit like nationally they've flown under the radar a little bit. Tell me about them, why I should like them in this series against Florida State.
Well, I mean, they're a little bit like Clemson light, if you will, in that they're just kind of like junkyard dogs, and they find ways to win games that it doesn't really feel like they should win. They have a knack for that, kind of like Clemson does. And it's not like a vintage NC State offense, if you ask me. I mean, it's, a couple of their star guys, that they were counting on, like Jacob Cozart, of course. I mean, he had a good week this past week, which is great, but he's had a fine year, but he hasn't had like the maybe superstar All-America year that we expected. And Dominic Fritton, another preseason All-American for them, got off to a really poor start, but lately he's coming on. And it's that, I think I talked about on the show maybe a couple of weeks ago, but like it's that fastball that really plays above his velocity. He's just got to throw enough strikes. And he's the last 2 weeks, he's been doing that. He's been throwing more strikes, and that's very encouraging. And so, I think they're plenty capable in the lineup. Their defense is solid. Brandon Butterworth at shortstop is a playmaker whose bat has finally started to heat up after really kind of a very slow first half. Bunch of transfers that they plugged in here. Garrett Pennington from Wichita has been a huge contributor, and as well as Alec Makarevic from ECU, like the two corner infield guys. The whole infield is transfers, but like they're older guys that have experience and have ability, and by and large they're producing. And Sam Highfield is kind of back, just grinding it out every week on Friday nights, and they've got some real arms in the bullpen, some young guys. I like their team a lot, and it feels like they've had to overcome a lot of adversity, and now the latest adversity is losing their left fielder, Josh Hogue, to injury. It sounded like it was a broken leg. Is that what we saw, guys?
Yeah, like nasty break. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they've got certainly the depth. I mean, you just plug in, Chase Nixon has been there for 3 or 4 years and is a quality piece, or whoever. I mean, they've got depth actually with that position player group, so they'll be okay, be able to withstand that. But it's just a team that feels like they've got a little bit of that it factor to me. So I picked Florida State. I mean, I think Florida State's really good. They're at home. It's a tough place to go. But NC State could certainly go down there and win that series. NC State's good, guys. They really are.
Love it. Joe, I'm going to pass A&M at LSU to you. Here's my question. If LSU is going to make Hoover and make the NCAA tournament, who's the most important player in that journey?
That's a good question. This is me stalling for some time. Well, I mean, one is Gage Jump, keeping what he's done the last 2 weekends going. I mean, he's been excellent the last 2. I think it's 14 consecutive scoreless innings. He's been a different guy the last couple of weekends. Does that continue? Because now you feel pretty good. I mean, now they're where we kind of thought they would be, with like, you feel really good about Holman and Jump, and then you take your chances in that third game. Took a little time, but now we're here. I'm also tempted to say Ashton Larson kind of in the same way. Like, suddenly out of nowhere, he's become maybe their second most important offensive piece behind Tommy White, in a world where they've had some injuries. They've had some guys like Jared Jones and Hayden Travinsky that have their moments, but haven't put up the monster years I think we thought they could have. They just needed someone new, like a new face to break through, and he's been that guy. They've got a relatively, within the realm of the SEC, a relatively favorable schedule to try to get enough wins to get there. But man, they have such a narrow path. Actually, if you're interested in that path, Mark Etheridge wrote a piece for the site earlier this week after talking to Jay Johnson about what that path is. And it's narrow. And obviously there's really no test as difficult right now as trying to get it done against A&M, even at home. So we'll see. But I mean, yeah, Gage Jump's going to have to pitch well. They're going to need, whether it's Larson or someone else, they just need kind of some new faces, some fresh blood in the lineup to step up and give them a little bit of help.
Love it. Fitzy, you have Stanford at Arizona. After this series, we're going to change the format a little bit to go super turbo, but little lightning round. But go ahead.
Listen,
shoot.
I haven't had a chance yet to channel my inner Bob Cousy. But, in honor of Mike Gorman, who just a longtime voice of the Celtics, just retired after 43 years. I was watching a tribute to Mike Gorman. Bob Cousy's still alive, guys. He's 95. He's the pride of Worcester County, Holy Cross guy. He had a little tribute to Mike Gorman. Love that. Here's my coos to you, Runes. What do you got?
Yeah, Kuz knows a good Westminster cracker when he tastes one. Come on now. Yeah, so Stanford at Arizona. Stanford is going to be a problem for the Pac-12. This reminds me of the pandemic season where they had this awful record of 5-11, but there was a lot of new players who were starting to kind of put roots down, and it feels like Stanford's doing that right now. Like they have this very nondescript team after 3 famous Omaha teams, and they just took a series from Cal, which might have ended Cal's season in some ways. Like the Stanford, you don't want to play them to finish the season. And I think for Arizona, even though they've pitched very competently and they've played defense very competently, their offense is fine. It's not a go win a game offense. It's a complementary offense. And so I don't love this series for Arizona. What I do love about it is it's at Arizona, right? And that it's such a unique park. So, Arizona, their overall record's not amazing. I mean, I'm not saying they're in danger of not being a postseason team, but I'm also saying they don't have like unlimited leash. You start looking at rankings and top ranked teams, and they have more losses than most of their peers in that regard. So anyway, I think it's a very important series for Arizona. And I just think Stanford I think they're going to recover quickly next year. This is not the year. And you're just hating it if you're playing them right now. So good pass, Fitzy.
Thank you.
Would you care to guess Bob Cousy's career field goal percentage? Different game, I understand, but career field goal percentage
63%,
which would be outrageous because he's a guard.
Right, for a guard.
Yeah, and no 3-point line.
That's probably aggressive.
I'm going to say 52%, Joe.
37.5.
Come on.
Wow. Well, he's a guard.
I'm looking at Basketball Reference. 37.5. I mean, I bring this up because he ends up kind of being like the go-to when people talk about how the players today are so much better. Anyway, it was a different game. Shout out to Bob Cousy, but 37.5 is pretty rough.
The Coos could sure pass the ball, though.
Yes, he could.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, averaged 7.5 assists for his career.
And he was also a great broadcaster. I'll never forget Bewo's penetrating on the periphery. I mean, that's just something.
That's a great rendition of it, Fitzy. Well played. Oh, man, that's great. All right, boys, we got 10 series left on my docket here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go El Rapido, lightning round. Each of us is going to comment on every series. You are to give a thought or a player name, and that's it. Try and be in and out in 15 seconds. Now, some of these series, quite honestly, I'm going to give a thought that says, I don't really know enough about this team right now, and I need to learn more. But so I'll start with Austin P at Stetson. Steve Trimper at Stetson's got a sneaky, really good team. He likes up-tempo. He's a Jersey guy. They've got this cool roster blend of Jersey kids and Florida kids. And I feel like this is the weekend. Austin P has been very famous. I think this is the weekend where I need to jump in on Stetson. Fitzy?
So you want me to take the next series? Is that what I'm doing?
No. We're each going to do a bullet on each series. So a thought or a player. Austin P. Stetson.
I mean, obviously, Lyle Miller Green is going absolutely bananas. They scored like 30-something runs the other day. I mean, he just keeps on hitting that guy. He's a menace. Never, and like I kind of liked him a couple years ago, in the Cape League and when he was transferred to Oklahoma State in that fall. And it's like, he's got tools. He's got, got some strength. He's a big, strong guy, two-way guy. And it just never quite happened. And I thought, there's too much we're going to miss here. And I kind of like sold all my stock. And God, it's like selling your Apple stock in like 1991 when they just released that like terrible, like whatever that thing was. It was a sad era right there.
Android, is that what they released?
Stop it. How dare you?
Runes with a scalpel move.
I would love to rebuy my Lyle Miller Green stock because he's the man.
Yeah. Joe, thought or player? Austin P. Stetson.
On Stetson, I can't believe Daniel Parrott is still on this roster. That dude almost predates Steve Trimper being there at Stetson. A lot of injuries in that guy's career. In a previous life, the ASUN was one of my preview conferences every year, so I was very aware of Stetson's roster for a long time. Good to see them kind of back on top. It had been a rough few years, but Daniel Parrott, their steadiest starter and a guy who deserves that success given all he's had to deal with.
Love it. Fitzy, West Virginia at Cincinnati. Rapid thought coming to Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like West Virginia has bounced back very, very well. I mean, that's the thing is they had kind of gotten, um, a reality check, right? 2 weeks, was it just 2 weeks ago where they got
Lubbock,
swept?
yeah.
I mean, and it was like, oh boy, like hold on now, but pull the plug on these guys, and they just no problem, they're fine. They sweep Baylor, they win, midweek game against Pitt. I think they're good. I guess that's what I got. I think they're good, and I know Cincinnati's been playing well, and Kendall's talking them up as maybe a sneaky dark horse regional team. I think West Virginia goes in there and wins that series.
Joe,
I think I do think Kendall's onto something here. I don't know if the RPI is going to get there ultimately because they're like I think 70. Let me scroll up here. So 70. Yep. But here's what they have: West Virginia at home, BYU, Oklahoma at home, plus games against Indiana and UConn, which will help the RPI. Like I do think it's there. They're over 500 in the league. The Big 12 is going to be tough to suss out. If the committee decides to value conference record and maybe kind of lean a little less on RPI, which I understand you'll never go broke betting on RPI with the committee, but I do think it's there for the Bearcats if they can go on a run, but it has to start this weekend.
JJ Weatherholt has only played 19 games. He missed 24 games, but he played shortstop the other night. He's beyond just DHing. So I think that changes the equation for them. Joe, is Oklahoma State at Texas? You kick us off, please.
I think this, much like you, Runes, where you said you need to lock in on Austin Peay. I feel similarly about this Oklahoma State team because I know that on the Nerdcast they've been talking up the Cowboys as a host team, and it's just not a team that I've really been that locked in on. And it's kind of funny that I linked those two teams together because a lot of former Oklahoma State players on that Austin Peay roster.
Yeah.
But I just need to. I'm going to plead ignorance a little bit on this series, but I need to lock in on Oklahoma State if they're going to be that kind of team. And the guys in the Nerdcast, who I trust very much, I would say, are telling me that they're maybe gonna host. So it's time for me to figure it out.
I love it. Nolan Schubert. It's spelled Schubert, but it's pronounced Schubert. Nolan Schubert is hot, as he had 4 home runs the other day, and he had a really serious injury in the middle of the year, and the injury where even when he was back, he wasn't back, kind of thing. And it looks like he's like back and like feeling normal and settled in. So he is actually a star player. Like he's a preseason All-American when he's healthy. So this is a huge series. Fitzy.
Yeah, big series. Texas is a team that I keep waiting to fade, and they won't do it. They won't go away. They won 3 straight series now. At Houston versus TCU, at Oklahoma. They play their way, even though the RPI is not quite there. They play their way onto the right side of the bubble, and it's a 13-8 in the Big 12 has my attention. And, I know it's not the easiest closing stretch, but they've got 2 series at home with Oklahoma State and Kansas. They're at UCF in between, which is not the easiest road series. But I mean, all those series are also winnable. It's not like we're playing the 27 Yankees here. I mean, it feels like this is just a classic David Pierce case of nobody's really paying attention. And then, oh, wait, here we are at the end of the year. It's just they feel like they do this a lot.
Love it. So I have Kansas. Who's at who? It's the Kansas schools. Kansas is at Kansas State. These are 2 teams with very thin margins for the postseason, but in position. And I'm more focused on Kansas. You've talked a lot about them, Fitzy. The player I want to focus on with Kansas is Reese Dutton. I don't know. I couldn't pick Reese Dutton out of a crowd of 2, but I could tell you that he's 7-2 with a 3.14 ERA and 11 starts in a very offensive league. So Kansas is sneaky. They have sneaky, really good pitching. And I know you've said that, Fitzy, but it's time for me to get a little bit more locked in on Kansas. Go ahead, Fitzy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like a Joe Healy special because Reese Dutton is one of Joe's beloved USC Upstate Spartans, transfer from those guys where he was very good. I think he was for their Friday night starter and had a lot of success there. Yeah, they're a good club. Kansas State's frustrating to me because it's just up and down and up and down, and it's just whenever you think they're going to make a run, they can't quite hold it together. And I don't know what to make of them anymore. They're just it's a tough team to figure out. They need to pitch it better. They need more length in their starting rotation. That's really the key to the whole deal. And we'll see if that happens at home this weekend.
I'm going to single out Kansas's John Nett. He's their center fielder, bats leadoff for them. I watched a decent bit of that series against Texas Tech last weekend, and he really is the guy who makes them go. He also came into the year as the second most heralded St. Cloud State transfer on the roster. But to this point, now Ethan Lanthier is coming on. He's pitching better, and I think that's huge for them. But for the balance of the season, he's been the better of the two St. Cloud State transfers. And he's not, smallish, pesky guy who came up from a lower division. Like, he's got some physicality and some tools to him. Like, he looks the part. So really fun player at the top of their lineup.
But you're right about Lanthier. He is coming on. I think it was 4 key innings relief this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a guy who had a really slow start, but was a big darling in the Cape League last year. It's got big stuff. We all know it. It's arm really works. It's a great body. And I think him coming on is very important for them.
Fitzy, Creighton at St. John's.
Yeah, and this is another one where it's like it almost feels like an at-large elimination series. I guess that's my takeaway here. Creighton's 31-11. They've had a really nice year, but they're 4-7 in the league, and it's like, they all of a sudden last week they make this huge jump. They win 2 midweek games against Coastal Carolina, and you're like, okay, all right, here we go. Now Creighton's making their move, and then they give all the momentum right back with 2 losses at home to Georgetown. The finale is canceled by weather. And then they come right back and beat Nebraska 9-5. And it's just like, will the real Slim Blue Jays please stand up? I don't know who you are right now. But this is an important series. I mean, St. John's, we moved them back into the field this past week. It's an RPI in the 50s, though, 59, I think, last I checked. If they can win this series, it would make a big difference in their case as well. So it feels like whichever team loses this series is in a lot of trouble.
Bingo. Joe.
I'm going to call out Mario Pesca, starting pitcher for St. John's, because I just want to call him the Fish. Mario the Fish Pesca. But is their best starter by statistically speaking. Had a really nice year for them. And my big thing with Creighton is that, I hate to say it this way, but they strike me as that team we're going to look back at the end of the year and go, man, that team was a regional team. They just didn't do enough. Like, they're talented enough. They're old. Like, if they get in a regional, that's a nightmare. Like, if you're Nebraska and you end up hosting like that, you don't want any part of that, especially because I think Creighton's beaten them twice this year. That's just a nightmare of a situation.
Right. 3 times, Joe.
Wow, 3 times. Yeah. So if they get in a regional, they are a problem. But I don't think they're going to get. I just don't think they have enough time to get there in the end. They have a lot of nice wins. I really like the team. Just doesn't feel like they're going to. I hope they do, because I do think they'd be a fun team in the regionals. I'm not too sure they're going to get there.
Yep. Play well now or forever hold your peace. Joe, I'm gonna back up the St. John's rotation. So you mentioned Mr. Pesca, Xavier Kohlhasser, and then Evan Chaffee. All 3 guys have made 8 starts or more. All 3 guys are over 43 innings pitched, so they're innings eaters. All 3 guys have significantly less strikeouts than innings pitched. So St. John's is just chucking it in there on New York grit and toughness, just throwing plain bagels at you and see if you can do something about it. So, but yeah, the Big East has had a great year, and this is a fun series. Joe, you are up next, and you have a series, I will tell you, Indiana at Purdue.
This is a series I'm actually hoping to catch a decent bit of, because I'm kind of fascinated by the Purdue storyline right now. Patrick Ebert wrote a great piece earlier this week, and I'm going to stall for time while I go look up the player's name who I'm thinking of that I can't remember.
Michael Bolton Jr.
No, that's great though. I wish like his walk-up song was "When a Man Loves a Woman," but I've been told
by Mike because he has to.
Mike Bolton Jr. Man, this page is slow loading. Been a tough day on the team websites today. Come back to me, Runes, because I do want to shout out a good player for Purdue. Come back to me here in a second.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Coach Greg Goff. He has won everywhere, and I know the Alabama thing didn't go well, but the Campbell, he's kind of like the founding father of Campbell baseball, and I just think Purdue has got a lot of work to do. They did not play a great non-conference schedule as far as I can tell, but man, they're right there where they want to be and playing with a lot of confidence. So I'm going to shout out Greg Goff. That is cool that he's having a nice little resurgence at Purdue. Yeah,
that's a good call. You know who else is having a nice little resurgence is the Indiana Hoosiers guys. They were, they really went out and challenged themselves in the non-conference. You like that transition, Rune segue? Would you call that in the biz?
So smooth.
Yes, like butter.
Yeah. Played a tough non-conference schedule. Had some highs in there. They went, they started out down there, Coastal Carolina, beat those guys, had won 2 out of 3 that weekend, coming out of the chute, went to Baylor and swept them. And then they go to Frisco, lose 2 out of 3. They host Troy, lose 2 out of 3. They lose to Vandy. I mean, it seemed like they were just kind of in the wilderness for a while, but all of a sudden you look up and here they come. They're 10-5 in the league now. They're making a charge. This was a team that was almost in the preseason top 25. They're not maybe quite as powerful as we thought they might be. I mean, they got a couple of, obviously Devin Taylor and Carter Matheson are established power hitters who've been there a while, and they've got double-digit home runs. Tyler Cerny, has got some. Like, there's a little bit of juice here, but I just think it's actually a pretty good balanced offense. I don't think it's maybe gonna like just bludgeon you the way we thought they might, but like I just think they're pretty good at the whole team offense thing, and it's like they're figuring out the roles a little bit on the mound. I think this team's going to really make a charge down the stretch. That's just a hunch for me, and I like Purdue, and I like what Patrick wrote about them this week. They have my attention. I just think Indiana's very talented and probably might be the most talented team in that league, and we'll see if that talent will come to fruition.
Love it.
Luke Gaffney for Purdue is who I was thinking of. First baseman.
Oh yeah,
he's a fun story. He's their best hitter, second on the team in home runs. He wasn't supposed to be the starting first baseman. Breck Nowick, a transfer from UIC, really played well in the fall, was going to be their guy. He suffered an injury. Gaffney, with very little expectation, just kind of steps in and takes the position for himself. Patrick, in his piece, astutely points out that Gaffney's name does not appear in the fall report. And that's kind of tends to be a sign of like expectation, right? Because I don't think it's just that Patrick failed to mention him. He just didn't come up, right? So just one of those stories that sometimes happens. And if you're going to have a season like Purdue is having, like, you tend to have at least 1 or 2 stories like that.
Yep. Felt well done. Hey boys, for the last, we've got 4 series left. Let's just go 1 player each and get out. All right. So 1 player each and get out. And I'm happy to hit lead off in each of the series to give you a chance to set yourselves. So UCSD at UC Santa Barbara, obviously UC San Diego's not eligible, but they're good. Santa Barbara's got a chance to host. So this is a tricky but important series for them. UC San Diego, the Tritons have a closer, Isaac Martinez. He probably pronounces it Isaac, but it's spelled Izaak. He's 4-2 with a 1.13 ERA, 8 saves. 47 innings, 50 punch outs, walking nobody, giving up no hits. Isaac Martinez, the closer for UC San Diego. If you're the Gauchos, you don't want him involved. Fitzy.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Mike Gutierrez from UC Santa Barbara, guys. We liked their pitching a lot heading into the year, and I feel like he was maybe the forgotten man a little bit in that. We talked more about Tyler Bremner, and we talked about, Hudson Barrett, who was a star closer last year. And Gutierrez has just been nails for him. And Bremner's been really good too. But like, this is it feels to me like Gutierrez is that guy who's just like their rock, and it's sinker ball guy. Isn't he, Rune? So I have that right?
Like sinker changeup, like very awkward lefty with a nasty changeup. He's 21-3 in his Santa Barbara career.
It's a winner, baby. And listen, winners win. And as a winner myself, I gotta tip my cap to that guy.
Well done, Joseph.
I'm going to stick with the UC Santa Barbara pitching staff and go with Ryan Gallagher, who, very similar kind of in terms of statistically a profile to Mike Gutierrez, kind of typical UC Santa Barbara strike thrower, isn't giving up free passes, but numbers get better in conference play. In conference play, he's got a 2.48 ERA, so it's actually a little better out of conference, but you know what I mean. That's really just every year. What impresses me about UC Santa Barbara, which is hard to do in a conference like the Big West or this version of the Big West, they lose pitchers every year, and we kind of wonder how they're going to deal with it. And they just keep rolling out with really good pitchers year after year after year. Even in a year when Matt Ager, who, oh, by the way, was on Team USA, has not been what they expected him to, the pitching for Santa Barbara has been just fine.
Love it. Johnny Walker, I see you in the chat. Kian Vu for Golden Spikes. He might be the most important player at Arizona State right now because they're clearly rebuilding and they need like freshman and sophomore players to be awesome. And Kian Vu, he can play first base or center field. He's been awesome for them. And you keep wondering like who's their next foundational piece. And I hope he's one of those guys. He's really a good player. So the next series I have, I believe it's Campbell. No, Campbell at UNCW. CAA is very good. That's a huge series. I'm just going to call myself out. I know UNCW is good. I don't know enough about them. I need to get in there and study more. Now, Tanner Thatch, I think is how you pronounce it, their first baseman, 21 home runs and 56 RBIs. That's a big year. Like, we're still going, and he's at 21 and 56 already. So UNCW, this is a good weekend for me to peek my head in there and get to know a few more of their players. Fitzy.
Yeah, and Thatch also is a two-way talent, but he's not pitched much this year. It turns out he's just too good of a hitter. He's a really good first baseman too. There's some serious strength in that swing, but I like their team a lot, and I don't know if you guys could tell listening to the Nerdcast, but it broke my heart to like take them out of projections this week. I think they're good. And it's nice that they're one of the few teams where you've got three like starters they're going to roll out every year. I mean, look around the country, guys. How many teams have three starters that have made 11 starts, in 11 weeks? It's not that common, but I mean, Zane Taylor, who's just your classic bulldog, like strike throwing, kind of a undersized guy. And then Schaefer, who's like your big old, taller dude with angle. And then RJ Sales, who's just your electric, mid-90s guy with a real slider. Those guys have all been kind of nails for him. And that just takes so much strain off the rest of their pitching staff. And they hit plenty, and Trevor Marsh, the senior center fielders, had a great year for him. I'm giving you a lot of players. I like the Seahawks. I haven't been able to talk about them. I didn't even get to go over and watch them the other day when they were in my neck of the woods playing NC State because the stupid Nerdcast took too long. And I missed the Seahawks. And I was bummed about it. And I'm making up for it now by just spewing names at you. So there you go.
I like it. I just got smarter. I didn't realize that about their rotation. Go ahead, Joe.
Tanner Thatch, the pride of Perquimans County. Shout out to Northeast North Carolina. Speaking of North Carolina, guys, I'm going to shout out on Campbell. First of all, shout out to Lawson Harrell. Really good year. Returning Big South Player of the Year, making a run at CAA Player of the Year this year. I'm going to shout out Dalen Thompson, though. A local kid on a team that, if you look at Campbell's roster, really not a lot of local recruiting. It's a lot of JUCO guys from all kinds of places. But he came in as a freshman from Dunn, North Carolina. For those who don't know, pretty small town, kind of out by Bowie's Creek, kind of between Raleigh and Bowie's Creek, I believe. And the first fall I saw him, I was like, oh, this guy's something. Like, he's real twitchy, athletic, but he was thin and he didn't appear all that strong. And now as a junior, he's playing every day. He's got 10 home runs, which is tied for third on the team. He's stolen 15 bases. At the times I've seen him, he's also been kind of versatile defensively. A lot going for him, but it's kind of a cool story for a team that doesn't typically have a lot of local guys. That they, one of their better guys offensively is somebody from just right down the road.
And shout out to Dunn, North Carolina. It's the largest quote unquote city in Harnett County with a population of 9,750. I just thought you should know that.
Well done. And for those of you that are listening, when Joe said Northeast North Carolina, and I thought this guy's supposed to be a wordsmith, that's awfully redundant. Just to be clear, Northeast North Carolina is not redundant.
That's right.
Those are two separate adjectives right there, Fitzy. So wanted to clean that up. Coastal at Southern Miss. Interesting. What player do I want to go with? I want to go with Billy Oldham at Southern Miss, who's got 11 starts. And I don't know whether to say it. Well, Nico Mazza, I'm not sure how you say that, but you guys could pick him. But Billy Oldham's had an unbelievable year. He's got 69 punch outs in 63 innings, 5-1 with a 3.96. And Southern Miss is another one of those programs where I don't feel like I know this team as intimately as I've known past USM teams, but I know they're good. And it's just incredible how they're really good on the mound. Again, it's like, we know it's just a great pitching program, but it's amazing consistency. Go ahead, Fitzy.
My man, Sam Antonacci, Seif was all over this guy coming out of the Midwest JUCO ranks. He was right. This guy's a baller. I know I've talked about him in the show. It's been a minute. He's one of the higher ranked JUCO guys on our list heading into this fall. And he's hitting 384. He's backed it up. And it's more walks than strikeouts, 41 walks, 28 strikeouts. He steals bases. He's not hit for a lot of power, but he's just a dynamic player, a table setter, really makes this team go. A lot of fun. Just, one of those guys that just, something about him just screams throwback to me if you watch him play. I don't know what it is. He just got that vibe to him. I like him.
I'll go with Cross Sibley for Southern Miss. Runes talks about the pitching, and Sibley he was very good last year for them, so it's not a new thing, but he's very much of a type for Southern Miss of that workhorse reliever that they just kind of throw in all kinds of scenarios, like get us out of this jam. And then the next day it's, hey, can you give us 3 innings? And then, hey, we need you to spot start. Like he's just kind of up for whatever, and whatever role they give him, he tends to be successful. And it's not the sexiest thing. It's not big strikeout numbers. It's just a ton of strikes and a rubber arm. And it's just kind of a classic Southern Miss reliever type.
Love it. Boys, Cal Baptist at Grand Canyon to wrap us. This is for the WAC. I mean, the WAC regular season championship is somewhat on the line here. These are 2 of the teams that I think are going to win that league. So this is a huge series. You know, of course, you got to win the tournament to go to the NCAA tournament at this point in time. I'm going to give you a Cal Baptist Lancer, hashtag Lance up. Mitchell Simon is their third baseman. He hit 20 home runs again this year. He's got 60 for his career. He's a third baseman with I'm told, a 70 arm. So he's got big power, a 70 arm, a name like Mitchell Simon, and he wears jersey number 1. What is there not to love about Mitchell Simon? Aaron J. Fitt.
That's good stuff there.
Thank you.
Your man Connor Madison for Grand Canyon is this exciting freshman who misses a lot of bats. Runes 72 strikeouts, 22 walks in 50 innings. He's made the most starts on their team. It's real stuff, isn't it? Like low 90s type guy with like
crazy good changeup.
Yeah, that's the changeup pitch. I was going to say that's like kind of the calling card there. He sounds super exciting, and he's had a nice year, you know. And I don't know. That's all I got.
It's a good call. He's legit. Joe.
Really, Aaron really petered out on that last one at the end there. I don't know. That's all I got. All right.
That's on me. That's on me. I saw my guy laboring on the mound. I let him face one more hitter, and it was a rocket.
I only call that out because that happens to me sometimes. You ever like make a point and then you keep talking, and then your brain's like, why are you still talking? You don't have anything else to say.
And
why didn't you just stop at the end of that last sentence? Yes. On the mound for Grand Canyon, I'm going to pick an offensive player, but I will say, building on Aaron's point, is that in a year for Grand Canyon, when Daniel Avidia has been out, Carter Young has been out the last several weeks. Like they've needed guys to fill in those holes, and he's been a big part of that. Offensively, Tyler Wilson, their top hitter, OPS about 1,100, 10 home runs, 13 doubles, not a ton of strikeouts, puts the ball in play. Runes, you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but it strikes me that Grand Canyon, not the most electrifying offense in the world, but he's the guy who seems to be making it go.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to say it. Like they have an older team. They've battled a bunch of injuries. I think their offense is capable of doing a lot of different things. You know, Zach York being the key, you know, like, or maybe the most talented player, but I like Grand Canyon. If Grand Canyon's in a regional, they could mess things up for other teams. Like it's funny, weird to say, they're in first place in the WAC, and I feel like they've not played great yet. I think there's, you mentioned Avidia, like, you know, like that dude led the WAC in strikeouts as a true freshman. So anyway, boys, we're going to wrap here with one exception. I do need to tell everybody that as we near the postseason, I want to mention the Big 12 tournament. The Phillips 66 Big 12 Baseball Championship is bigger and better than ever. It's going to be at Globe Life Field. It's the only college baseball conference tournament that's held at a big league ballpark. Of course, that's the home of the Texas Rangers. May 21st to the 25th, 10 teams will vie for the Big 12 title. You can elevate your experience with new premium ticket options. You could do premier seats. You could ask for the Kendall Rogers Club access seats, and there's complimentary perks, of course. Secure your tickets today by visiting globelifefield.com/Big12, globelifefield.com/Big12. Now, boys, we're going to wrap with this. This does not have a sponsor yet, but I would like to start awarding a phrase or word of the day, and some things that struck me. Fitzy, I loved you referring to Cal Poly as troublemakers. I thought that was a really good term.
After he accused them of being home wreckers. He's going to start some rumors.
We cleaned it up a little bit. Yes, we did. We cleaned it up. Joe, I love that you used the expression "pull up from the snout." I thought was excellent.
Thank you.
Fitzy, the word "renowned" is underused. I think. I thought that it was well played by you, and it's a tough word to pronounce, so most people don't have the courage to run it out there, but you did. I think it is. I feel like I'm going to trip on it every time. All that said, though, that's not our winner. The winner is Joe deploying the word nadir or nadir. That was well done. Yeah, Joe.
Thank you.
That was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need other ways to talk about somebody hitting rock bottom. They've hit their nadir.
Nadir. Yes, that's right.
Yes. Listen, I would love to have a vocabulary B against Joe. I think it'd be close. Frankly, I think we're both up there.
Yeah, I think frankly, yeah, like I think I'd be in for a good match. I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of a peacock with language, right? Like I use words that don't need to necessarily be used, right? But I'm just using them to use them.
Hashtag strut your stuff, Joe.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
By
strut
the way,
up. They changed their hashtag. It's strut up now.
It's always going to be strut your stuff to me, though.
I agree. Look, I didn't do it. Yeah.
By the way, breaking news. There's a new word of the day for this podcast, and it is peacock. So you're right. Strut up, strut your stuff. Just do something. But go St. Peter's Peacocks. We're with you. We got you. Gentlemen, well done. Happy Thursday evening. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. And we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.